Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor for nearly 20 years with Ebby Halliday Realtors. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with the top community influencers to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now, your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Welcome, viewers, to this episode of Community Cocktails with Kimberly. I am so thrilled to have this guest back. She's been on a couple of my podcasts, and I am so excited to have her back here talking with me today. Gina, and Gina is a licensed counselor and therapist, and welcome.
Thank you. It's fun to be back.
Yes, it's been a year.
Nice to see you. Can't believe it. 2022.
I know. I remember us doing even 2021. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, gosh, now we're back. And, we were here even before the pandemic in 2020. So
that's right.
But now we're in year 2?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's Groundhog Day every day.
Yeah.
And so, with that, and there's been so much going on. And so we're going to talk about the pandemic and burnout and mental health burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about burnout.
Yes.
So, I guess what is burnout? What's the difference between burnout and pandemic burnout?
Right.
How did we get here? What do we do about it, right?
I know. Like I said, I feel like every day is Groundhog Day.
Every day, exactly. So one of the ways to think about burnout is fatigue. But this is a deep fatigue. This is a fatigue that's hard to shake. It affects all these different areas of our lives. And really the source is it's ongoing stress.
Yeah.
So we have this ongoing stress, and we don't have enough restorative self-care to offset this ongoing stress.
Yes.
So we had 2 years of ongoing stress with the pandemic. So
right.
We've got that. But the thing about the pandemic was also that these were extra stressors. This was a lot of adapting, a lot of change. Our lives were disrupted.
Yeah.
And then we had this other ingredient, right? So we've got more stress, we've got ongoing stress, and then less self-care.
Yes.
So we've got these, this perfect storm.
Yeah.
So here we are with pandemic burnouts.
Yes. I will say it's, I think everyone kind of gets into their own mode, and they try and figure out how to cope, how they cope best. I ironically am one of those people, if I'm bored and I need something to do, I like to work out. It, releases my endorphins and helps them it's always helped me with my stress and, managing that. But I know, other people don't do that. There's other things that they do, stress and, sometimes, addictions come and all that.
So. Absolutely. I mean, the way that we've coped, and some of us have been more adaptable, right. Has affected us. And some of us have had, it's been obviously really difficult to be able to practice good self-care.
Right.
So I think it's helpful to, first of all, kind of take a look at how did we get here?
Yes.
So that we can kind of see how to, I guess, mend, how to heal, how to improve what was going on that affected us. And then, of course, taking a look at our self-care. So if we're looking at our stressors, of course, they've changed quite a bit.
Yes, they have.
So we definitely want to take a look at that. And so whenever we look at our stressors, I kind of like thinking about our balance. So what do we have in our budget? What are we working on? What's on our plate? What's on our radar as far as work and responsibilities?
Okay.
So what do we have to do? And identify if there are maybe some extra stressors within that maybe we can take off of our plate.
Yes.
But again, with work and with our responsibilities, there's some things that we just can't take off of our plate. We have to work.
Right.
So for example, with something like work alone, one really helpful thing to do is making sure that we have a good work schedule, making sure we have good boundaries. So because some of us are working from home, sometimes we are working around the clock.
Yep. It's never, it's always there when you're
It's
at
always
home.
there. So it's nice to have a start point and an end point and be really consistent about, conserving that time and keeping the time before and after really sacred. So something like that change alone can help make the work stress not as heavy. So, so I am practicing telehealth. I'm a counselor, so
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of overlap then because
Right.
I'm working from home. So I make sure that anything that I'm doing work related just actually happens even in that office
Yes.
at home, and that I am done at a certain time, and I'm out of my office hours are closed. Even
Right.
though I'm still at home.
You're like, that hat is off.
Exactly. So that's kind of an example of one. We take a look at our work, and our responsibilities. What does it look like? See if there are some changes like that one, for example, you can make.
Yes.
And then we take a look at our health. How's our nutrition? How's our exercise? How's our sleep? Are we getting
Right.
enough sun?
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we are adequate, at the very least, adequate in those areas.
Right.
So let's make sure we get some sun every day. Look ahead
Right.
at the weather. To make sure
Yes.
we're getting enough sun, enough sleep. Make sure that we are getting regular exercise. Like with you have
Yes.
it. And so some of us, it's hard for me to get to the gym on my own. I need a personal trainer to help me with accountability.
Right.
So that helps.
Yes.
We can find creative ways to have little micro moments of self-care as well if we aren't able to see a trainer. So
Yeah.
maybe some extra, maybe some extra chores around the house. So you're
Right.
doing chores and you're getting some cardio.
Definitely.
So some of these things we can do with our health. We also have to have a social life. We have to have social interactions. We have to be connected. We've been so
Yes.
isolated. So we have to make sure we take a look at, okay, who is on our social radar? Are we nurturing those relationships?
Yeah.
And then the last one is very specifically self-care. So this one should be fun. This one shouldn't be a lot of
Yes.
work. Right?
No, everyone wants to be pampered.
It should be hobbies.
Right.
It should be things we do for us, things that shouldn't take out a lot of energy. They should come naturally.
Right.
So I think this is kind of a good time of the year to take a look at those four, and let's see if we can maybe incorporate those into our New Year's resolutions.
I would love that. Yes.
So perfect time to reevaluate.
It is. I mean, maybe you're developing a new hobby. Maybe it's, something you've always wanted to take up, whether it's, a sport or just you wanted to commit to, I am going to walk, do a walk, 3 days a week. I'm going to walk it and make yourself accountable for that. I also find, we're, a lot of us we have to get on these Zoom calls, and a lot of them, some of the Zoom calls, we're having to listen to because they're big calls and they're not so much that we're all on face and everything. We're just more of a listening. And I have several that I have to get on throughout the month. And I find sometimes getting on my treadmill, because I don't have to sit there. I can, maybe walk at the same time. I'm killing two things with
Absolutely.
2 birds with 1 stone,
Yeah.
is the saying.
I think that's great. I think that's so great. Whenever we can work on a goal that that improves, just those 4 things that I mentioned,
Right.
just that we're functioning well, but we can also do it and it's effortless and
Yes.
it's efficient, it's simple,
yeah.
So I get to watch, one of my favorite shows and also, exercise at the same time. That can be a
Yes.
lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
So,
definitely.
so there's ways to simplify it, and definitely, if we're taking a look at where our baseline is in some of these areas, and so let's say a goal is I want to eat healthier and make sure that I am doing this meal prep and got a certain amount of calories, so that we might be getting a little complicated. Let's just first see how we've been functioning. Have you been eating breakfast every day? That's a
Right.
place to start.
Yes.
And it will lead you to better success and build up to that point. So, let's start with making sure you're eating breakfast every week.
Yeah.
And then, again, build from there so
Yep.
that, these things are a little more simple up front, but it's part of that bigger goal. And, so we can do those different things with exercise. So
Yes.
if I'm already doing, certain activity every day, well, let me see if I can incorporate that in an exercising kind of way. I've got 3 Chihuahuas, and so,
There you go.
I have to walk them anyway, and I can get sun at the same time, and maybe I
Yes.
can, listen to your podcast
Yes,
and,
there you
get all
go.
this stuff done at the
You
same
can
time.
download it on Apple Pod.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
go get your iPod on, and you're off
And all
for a
set.
walk.
All set. Perfect. Absolutely.
But no, I mean, I think the outdoors, because people aren't going to the office,
Mhm.
they're used to going, getting their car, driving to the office, going out, for lunch, maybe, if it was a nice day, maybe you're, walking outside. And when you're confined to your working from home, it's easy to get up, make your, a lot of us make our coffees. I know that's the first thing that happens before I do anything. And, get in that rut that then you go into the office, and then you're there until, whatever your time, clock out is. And you're not seeing the outside. You're maybe just seeing that monitor, whatever your job is for, 8+ hours.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it can be really easy to get stuck in that rut. And one of the things as a mental health provider is that we take a look at our baseline functioning, and if we find that we are not functioning the way that we used to, we don't feel like ourselves. That's a good indicator that there's a problem. But it's kind of interesting though, because with the pandemic, none of us have been ourselves because our lives changed.
right.
So it can be really tricky to actually notice that, where this new baseline is, but also trying to identify how to make some more changes. I mean, it may feel already like, okay, I need to make change, but my life has already changed. But, we really kind of take a look at some of these key things. Okay, so whether I am, here or there, I always need to get some sun.
Yes.
Whether I'm working from home or not, I need this amount of social time. Whether I'm here or not, I still need to have a designated amount of work hours. So sometimes we can find ways to structure those things, whether, we're at home or not. And so we want to have that foundation, but we also want to make sure that we really incorporate change and novelty, because that's one of the darn things about being at home and some of the changes we've made and that's part of the ride, is that there's just so much monotony and things aren't different. So we gotta shake it up, change it up.
Yes.
And try to change it up regularly.
I find that, I'm lucky in my job, there's a lot of activity always going on, a lot of change. But, I know a lot of my friends who, work, and there's, they were in an office, now they're home, and they're home, they've had to adapt differently. Their schedules are different. They're doing, different things. And that one thing is, from the office, when you were at the office, at least you had the socialization every day. You had other people. So it wasn't that, so then you bring yourself home and you may not have that. You may be by yourself for, a lot of the times. If you have kids, well then, they're coming in, at a certain time, or you're having to go pick them up now because you're working from home. So now you have to go pick them up because you have that guilt, like, oh, well, I'm home, I should go pick them up. But, it's a different type of schedule,
It really is.
and adapting to that. But I think the biggest thing is that socialization. I think that socialization is such a key, because I know myself, I'm a very social person. I know that is hard for a lot of people to believe. And I crave, like, I have to be out. I have to be out and socialize. And if I don't for so many days, I can feel my body. It's like my workouts. It's like if I don't work out for 2 days, I'm like, oh, I get that. Like, I need to, go do this. It's just part of, what I know I need to fulfill myself. So.
Absolutely. And, this pandemic has obviously affected a lot of us in different ways, but it's been really hard for people who are extroverts.
Yes.
It's really tough. That's, just the nuances, the variety of interactions that you have, the face-to-face, there are people who you're not seeing, or, they're not available, even if you are, but it's been really hard. Your meter you know,
Yes.
for your what feels fulfilling and what feels like your even just your baseline of your social health. You know, it's you know it's kind of low, and
Yeah.
we have to work harder at it.
Oh, we do.
But that's been, you know, so how that's affected extroverts has been pretty tough, and you know, another population that's been pretty affected are perfectionists. So if you're a
Yes.
perfectionist and you're an extrovert, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to have a sense of control
Oh, yeah. I mean,
during these times.
definitely, because I feel like so much is out of your control. You've got a lot of delays on everything. I mean, you order something and you used to expect it to be delivered then, within a few hours or delivered the next day, and it's maybe the next week or the next month that it's coming. Just delays on stuff, or you go to the store and you want a certain item, and that's typically a staple on the shelves, and now it's not there for weeks.
Yeah.
So it's hard
Yeah.
to
And one thing that you can't control can
Right.
just have this domino effect of, okay, well, I don't have this. Well, now I can't do that. And I
Right.
need to do that before I can get to this one. And
Yes,
then you kind of have to rearrange your approach, and that's extra stress.
definitely. I feel like so much is built on with what's all going on that we all just sometimes we just have to take a deep breath
Sure.
and you know let everything just kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
And
But again, just, if there are ways that we can incorporate, like I mentioned, change
Yep.
and so today, for example, I mostly work from home,
Right.
and I'm taken care of here. I look professional
Yes.
here, and down here I'm not wearing heels.
No,
So something like just being able to wear heels added some, extra
Yes,
fun, and
yes.
being able to see a person,
Right.
face to face.
not on a screen.
So we'd be surprised how much these things make a difference. Sometimes it might feel like, gosh, I'm going to see someone, that won't, I mean, is that really going to help? But because sometimes we compare it to how it felt before,
Right.
but it is kind of different now. We actually get a little more filled up from these positive things. So definitely making sure to incorporate them where you can. Get
Oh.
dressed up in the morning.
Well, that's what I was
I
going
can
to
wear
say.
heels
Yes.
when I do telehealth. So
I mean, hey, you remember the Joe Cleaver commercial? She would times she would be vacuuming in her pearls and your heels. Why can't you do
why not? Great idea. Absolutely.
But I will say, if I get dressed up, I feel I have a total different outlook on the day than if I am in my, workout stuff. There are days that I just, I may, if I am dressed up and on for so many days in a row, it
Mm.
does feel good to just not have to put on my
Sure.
makeup and do my hair and all that and just have a ponytail day. But it does. I mean, so if you're at home and you're working from home and you're on Zoom, I'm going to challenge you for tomorrow that you get dressed up. Get out that glam. Walk around in that glam.
Absolutely. So a lot of practical things we can do, and
Yes.
just like with being dressed up all the time, I mean, it's monotony. So we want to regularly, kind of jazz it up, have some fun here and there. And so, kind of along that line, though, of something that can happen with our mental health for
Right.
adults, children, teens, is that sometimes being stuck in this rut of, let's say, a child is, learning remotely.
Right.
And they're used to not getting dressed up and not having these certain routines. And
Right.
then sometimes it feels so exhausting and so overwhelming to do something so simple like meet up with a friend for lunch.
Yep.
So, incorporating, getting dressed up and routines and those kind of things can even help with that transition as well.
Oh, I love that tip. Love that. Well, let's kind of summarize a couple of points for our guests to remember and take away from our episode today. So first things first, kind of get some routines in, and build on them. Really,
Yeah.
it's kind of a building block. What we used to do when we were little, we'd build those blocks, up and up gradually, and that's how you can make it a habit. So, so I love, love that. I do love the challenge of everyone getting dressed up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fun one.
Yes, I love that. And go outside, get your exercise, maybe even incorporate that as your lunch. Nowadays, if you're working from home, you got to eat at some time. So carve out, the 30 minutes in the day, and maybe that's your 30-minute walk that, you walk around the block and just get some, fresh air, some sunlight, and if you can on a day, and enjoy it. So
Absolutely.
because I love being outdoors. I like the sunlight. I'm not a good gloomy girl. If it's gloomy, that puts me in a whole other world.
Yeah.
So
I do have to say, with my clients, personal, relationships, whenever we're in this rut, it really also feels like we need to do something drastic to shift and get out of it. But really, if we really take a look at, we may think, gosh, I need to start working out 4 times a week, or I need to make this big change. I need to go on this big vacation. But sometimes if we just take a look at some of this really basic stuff and start there, we'd be surprised how much that can help alone. So we might think, gosh, I really need to, maybe have a party or go to this big social event.
Yeah.
But then did we get any sun that week?
right.
Have we been drinking water?
Yes, hydrate.
So just, again, we incorporate some of these simple things, and they can even give us a boost that actually will help us do some of those other things. So, really take a look at some of the small stuff, see where you are, work at it, build on it. And I like to use that as our guide for our resolutions.
I love it. So hopefully this gave you some tips that you can incorporate. I know I'm going to. It's always a pleasure to have you, Gina. Thank you so much. And cheers to 2022. Woo!
New Year.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact Kimberly with your real estate needs, you can reach her at kimberlywoodard.ebby.com. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.